Re-entering a drinking environment when you are sober is one of the most challenging things that you will face, but you can get through it. I'm going to share all of the tips and tricks and, yes, stories on what I did and did not do. Let's get into it. Hi everyone, I'm Nina Davalori. I'm a former Miss America filmmaker and activist, and I love sharing all my big sis advice here. The hardest thing that I had to do in my sobriety and drinking socially was to say no to an Oscars after party. This is a story. As I entered a drinking world as a sober person, especially in New York City, believe me, if you are in New York City or any big city, I feel like so much of the social life revolves around drinking. And so finding ways to set yourself up for success was crucial for me to be able to go out in the world again. There's a lot of content for all of you to get into here. So please subscribe, like, share, do all the YouTube things. It really does help build the community. I know in my journey, I never saw anyone South Asian talking about this. I still feel like I don't. I felt that someone like me who had so much to lose and so much stigma around being Miss America and sharing that I struggled with addiction and I'm now sober felt like a dark cloud hanging over me. But I also know that I have a platform to be able to hopefully help rid the stigma around this, because it can happen to anyone. And, you know, let our community know that we're not alone in this. I know that this is an issue for so many of us, and I hope that we can at least just start a conversation here. But y'all are here for some of the tea, so let's get into that first. This video was actually a perfect segue from last video. If you have not watched Sober Stories Part 1 and Part 2, it's helpful context of just my sober journey from when it all began to how did I get here and making the decision to get sober. So if you haven't seen it, it's really helpful context. It's really good information. I put my heart and soul into those videos, so you can watch those. But for today's video, it's kind of an organic continuation, because the last video I left off making that decision to get sober, and I alluded to really having to go out into the world and learn how to be social again, because the year was 2021 and things had just started opening. And so, you know, people were getting vaccinated, weddings were happening again. And the way we become more social typically tends to be with alcohol. Almost every single celebration, right, involves alcohol. And 2 weeks after I got sober, my sobriety date is March 3rd, 2021. One of my family members was having his birthday, and I love this person, and his birthday is March 12th or 13th. Oh my gosh. Family, do not kill me for that. But anyways, it was definitely one of those days, and they were doing a rooftop party, like gathering basically. And I mean, at this point, I'm only like 10 days sober. So that was like the biggest challenge, because I had to show up for this person. I love this person, and so I wanted to be there for him. But I was so nervous because this is a group of people that loves to drink, and you know, my family loves to drink. And so there was a lot of hesitancy and nervousness and anxiety going into that. So when talking to my therapist and using all the resources available to me, I put a plan in action, because I recognize that this is something I'm gonna have to deal with. It's not gonna be easy, but how can I at least start and show up for the people that I love and care about in my own way? The biggest thing in terms of mental preparation, I think, happens before the event. And for me, thinking before the event, how am I gonna set myself up? The first thing I did was I made sure I had someone to call who knows my situation and will answer. So whether that's a sponsor, whether that's a trusted friend or person that you confided in about this journey, tell them where you are going. Tell them that, hey, I just might need you to be on call for the next couple hours, because I want to make sure I'm good going into this and going out of it, and I might need some moral support or guiding love during this process. Call them and make sure that they'll be available. Number 2, is there a person in this environment that you know might not be drinking? Is there someone who's pregnant? Like, is there someone who you know doesn't really like to drink a lot. And if you know that they're not participating in the activity, you can make sure you are closer to them, hanging out more with them, just talking to them. Unfortunately, in a lot of scenarios, there was not a person that wasn't drinking, I found personally. And so that wasn't necessarily an option, but as I started to expand certain circles and friends and relationships, because I was so newly sober, everyone I was hanging out with was drinking. That was just what everyone was doing and all my friends were doing. So it was much harder to find someone who wasn't doing that until I had a little more personal growth and distance in finding my people, my sober people, and the friends who just don't drink. The third thing I did, and this was really key for me, was to have a place that I know I'm going to afterwards. Have a place that you have committed to meeting a friend afterwards. Have some sort of situation set up for yourself where you have to leave the party. I think the hardest thing for me was knowing when to say when, like calling it, like wanting to be there for the entire birthday. You gotta cut the cake, you gotta open the presents, whatever it is, you gotta do the things. And so there's a point in time though where you have to tell yourself, I've been here for long enough, I've shown up for the person that I love, and now I need to go take care of myself, however that might be. So give yourself a hard out, whether that is meeting a friend or if you are mentally able to just say, nope, at 10 o'clock, I'm done, I'm leaving. For me, I was like, nothing good happens after midnight, which is true, but even then I was like, I'm not staying until past 10. I told myself I would actually stay until they cut the cake and blew out the candles, and that was gonna be my cue to leave. And so I had that, and the person I depended on to go see afterwards was actually Ryan. We'd set a time to meet up afterwards, and because our relationship was still new, I wasn't gonna like blow him off. So I had like a person that I knew I was gonna meet, so that also gave me a hard end to the drinking party that I was going to. So all of that are things that I did before the event. Now that you have mentally prepared for the event, it is time to go to the event. And that is the next battle that you are gonna overcome, because we can do this. So when you get to the event, I've noticed that I actually have gotten there earlier sometimes, because I noticed that that's actually the time where I'm probably gonna have more connections rather than later in the evening. People are just kind of getting warmed up, people are just getting started. So it's not like everyone's sloppy, just sort of looking for the next place to go. It's actually, you're having more meaningful conversations earlier in the night. So as soon as I get there, I'm going to the bar and I'm getting a soda with lime, lemon, whatever it is. If there's a mocktail, the bartender can make you a mocktail. Get yourself a mocktail, get yourself a water with lemon, whatever you need to just have the drink in your hand. That is just such a security blanket. So just make sure you have the drink in your hand, and then when you're ordering, you don't have to feel embarrassed that you're not drinking or explain why you're not drinking, which I've realized no one really asks those questions. Like, it's just really all in your head. Most of it was in my head, at least. So at least you have it, you can order it, get it, you're done. And then you can also talk to the bartender and introduce yourself. You can say that, hey, if I come up here, I just want this for the rest of the night. Tip them well, and then when they see you, they're gonna get your drink ready, and you don't even have to go through like the ordering process again. So those are just some ways, if you get there early, to sort of set yourself up for the night, whatever that might be, whether that's wedding, networking, party, birthday, just a social night with friends. I found that's actually a really great way. And I've also discovered that I don't need it now. I think in the first very early months, I definitely needed those in place, but now I don't even think about it, which is such a freeing place to be in. Number 2, after you get that drink, you are going to position yourself away from the bar. I found in the early days of sobriety, it was actually really hard for me to be around the bar, like so close to it. You feel like you can smell the alcohol. It's all around you. Like, it's kind of all you're thinking about is just saying, no, like this sucks. I can't drink. Like, it's like the little angel and devil are on your shoulders being like, oh, I hate my life, like I can't do this. And then the other side is like, yes, but you're doing this for the betterment of your life. And so like that struggle existed for me. So just like kind of positioning myself away from that was just a small helpful thing that I could do in the environment that I was in. Number 3, focus on having just one meaningful conversation. I found that if I just focused on making one connection with one person, that left me feeling really fulfilled. And I hope that it left the other person feeling fulfilled, because when you're sober, you don't have time for like BS conversations. Like you just kind of get to a level deeper than you normally would of just superficial talk that I feel like people do when you're just socially drinking. And so finding like just one person, and it has to be a person who's willing to have a meaningful conversation. Like you got to find that person. Not everyone's going to be that. I just told myself, I just want to find one. Maybe I'll find one person that I have like something deeper than just, hey, who are you? What do you do? And I think in being sober, I was able to find those people that have a different level of depth that you can get to quickly, and being able to focus on that one conversation, I realized actually allowed me to have more. And then it actually kind of was a ripple effect. But even if I did just have one, that was a success for me. Especially with networking, if I was going into a room where I didn't know a lot of people, or I knew that, hey, I want to meet as many people as I can tonight, it stopped being a numbers game for me. It became, let me find the people that I genuinely have meaningful connection with. And if I talk to one person in this networking event and I've only made a connection with one person, it's okay. It's actually better, because that connection was so much more meaningful, so much more deeper, so much more fruitful than any just exchange of like a business card or handshake. It actually just worked more in my favor, because you kind of, again, it's about finding and discerning who your people are. And a large part of this is figuring that out along the way, especially when you don't have alcohol to lean on or use as a crutch anymore. You're going off of your intuition and you're getting into alignment with yourself, which is so new. It's like you're a kid walking again. Like you don't know fully how to do it, and you're still just like balancing what that feeling feels like. But in the long run, I will say it definitely paid off. The next thing to do during this event is make sure you have a halfway check-in point. So halfway through the event, whether you're there for an hour, 2 hours, 5 hours, check in halfway, and check in with yourself in a place that's quiet. Go to the bathroom, go to a hallway, excuse yourself, find a place where it's just you. You can kind of shut out the noise for however many minutes. Check in and see how you're feeling. Are you doing okay? Do you need to get out? Do you need to have that conversation with the person on standby? Make sure you ask yourself those questions and see how you're doing. And that will be really telling in if you decide that you want to stay for the rest of the time that you had planned to stay, or decide that it's time for you to leave. And there have been times where I have decided it is time for me to leave when I've had that check-in moment. I've had a meaningful conversation. I feel like it's just getting too difficult for me, because maybe the crowd is getting more and more drunk, or everyone else is drinking way more than you are, and you cannot have any more conversations because no one is on your level and everyone's in just a different world. And so you're just kind of like standing there, and it's not fun. And so there's times where I've said, this isn't fun for me anymore. So having that check-in moment halfway point through the night allows you to reassess the situation, ask yourself why you're there, do you need support, and do you want to continue to be there? Finally, this kind of goes in with the check-in, but it's keep to your curfew. Keep to the time limit that you told yourself. Like say you check in halfway, you decide you're gonna stay until the time that you set for yourself. You have a time limit, you have a curfew that you are going to honor, that is yours between you and whoever higher power you want to call, or universe, whatever it is, whatever it might be. And it is so important to honor that, because I have found that it is really tempting when you're in situations of especially group drinking and friends that are socially drinking, for them to be like, let's go to the next place, let's go do this. And I found that that's really fun for them. But if I go to the next place, am I going to want that drink even more? Or am I going to feel tempted more? Probably. Like everyone's on a different level. So yeah, probably going to the next place is not a good idea, which is why you have that curfew that you set for yourself. And so being able to say, you know what? Nothing good happens after midnight, after 2 a.m., after whatever time you want to set for yourself. Honor that curfew no matter how difficult it might be. It is so important to do that. I think the hardest time I ever had honoring this curfew was in 2022. I had been sober for a year, which I still set up these things for me. And like I said, the further you get away from it, you just don't think about it as much, which is really nice. It's not to say that I have it all figured out and I'm not gonna think about it. Like that's when bad things happen. So I need to always, like in the back of my mind, have these little checkpoints. But the hardest time I had with adhering to my curfew is in 2022, I was invited to the South Asian Oscar party. I think the invite had said from like 8 to 11 p.m. is the official time for the party. So I was like, great, 11 p.m. is my curfew. That's great. I'll be there for the whole time and then I'm gonna go. And at 11 p.m., there was an after party. And everyone was going to this after party, and I was invited to go to this after party by a few different people, and people were asking, hey, are you going? And I said, no, I'm going home. And that was the best decision I could have ever made for myself at that point in time. Because I remember thinking, like, am I gonna miss something? Like, of course there's FOMO in all of these things. And I said to myself, you know what? Nothing is going to be accomplished that hasn't already been accomplished here. Risking the curfew that I had set for myself, risking the plan that I had had for myself to keep myself in a healthy headspace and scenario, especially with alcohol involved. I knew it was not worth it to go to this after party because it was going to be at a club in a dark bar where everyone was just continuing to drink. And so that is an environment that is not fun for me anymore necessarily. There's a time and place. In Miami, I did like a girls trip totally sober, which also like telling my girlfriends that you're sober and your friends that you're sober is a whole separate story and conversation. So if you want a video on that, let me know. We went like clubbing in Miami with just girlfriends. I was completely sober. It was so much fun. So it depends, right? If it depends on who you're with and the crowd you're with, the time, the environment, what you're there for, and this just did not feel like the time and place to go to the club. So saying no to that was a hard decision. Believe me, I wanted to go. The FOMO was real, but I know that it was the best decision and I honored myself above anything else. And that is one of the most important things, if not the most important thing that you can do on this journey. A couple more big events that were hard to get through, especially in the early days, was bachelorette parties and weddings. In April of 2021, I had my first bachelorette party that I had to go to sober. And in June of 2021 was a wedding for the same bachelorette party. I love bachelorette parties. They are some of the most fun parties and it's just like such good girl time. And I was so excited for it, but I was nervous because I wasn't gonna be drinking and that was gonna be hard, I'm not gonna lie. And I found out that one of the girls going on the trip was actually pregnant, so she wasn't drinking either. And because I wasn't drinking, I was also like, well, I'm happy to be DD. I'm happy to drive us anywhere. I'm happy to take us anywhere. Like, I felt like I was at least like useful in that situation. I told myself I wasn't gonna be boring. There was only one person who asked why I wasn't drinking, and I said, what did I say? I remember I said like, oh, I decided I was gonna like stop for a month and I just haven't gone back. Partially true, partially not. So you don't have to immediately say I'm sober and I'm dying and this sucks. There's different ways to handle it. And again, out of this entire journey, I think only one or two people actually asked. So it's really so much smaller than you think. If you say you're not drinking, people don't say anything back. It's really just like, okay, well, move on, next. Like, we're so consumed by our own thoughts than anyone else's. So it actually was not that big of a deal. And so getting through that bachelorette party was actually pretty easy because at the end of the day, like, it's so fun because you feel like you're having a sleepover with like girlfriends, having those late nights, and you don't need alcohol to do that. You really, really don't. And coming back from that was kind of like a relief where I was like, I actually had so much fun without drinking. And it was just really nice to have that feeling because going into the wedding, I think the only hard thing that was like a real bummer for me during the actual wedding was when everyone at our table was taking shots. Like someone had brought back tequila shots for the entire table. Everyone took them. I cheersed with it and I put it down and I was like so mad. I was like a little kid where I was like, I can't have it. I'm not allowed to have it, is what it felt like, which it kind of was. And so like seeing everyone participate and feeling like you couldn't, especially at like, when you're at like the fun table, which we were at like the fun table, and like you're not participating can really suck. It really can. And I found that the remedy to that situation is just have a little shooter for yourself that is non-alcoholic, or someone, or just take a sip of your water, like still participate in the activity and recognize that it's not really about the alcohol. Why you're there is to celebrate this couple, is to enjoy yourself and this love and the people that love them around them, and focusing on that instead of, oh, I can't like have this one shot, was really helpful in being able to have an amazing night. It was so fun. I was on the dance floor like the whole night. And so like just redirecting your energy into different places. And let me tell you, when I stopped drinking, I started eating all the wedding food. I feel like I never fully like properly ate dinner, because like you're at the bar, you're getting up, you're dancing, or I would like not pay attention to it. I would rarely, if ever, get dessert or cake. And now I was like, wait, where's the food? Where's the cake? Where are the appetizers? Give me everything. Like I want to enjoy all the food and like all the little snacks, all the late night things, all the cake, all the desserts, like, and so finding enjoyment in that, I was like, ooh, I get to do this now. Like, was really fun for me, is like, oh yeah, like I can pay attention to all the things that are so beautifully, you know, planned out and thoughtfully there. And I want my guests to certainly pay attention to that. So that was something I didn't even recognize, that I wasn't even noticing when I was drinking. Like I couldn't even notice all the wonderful things that were around us at any wedding, or in general, or in life in general, I should say. Like that's a larger metaphor. So those are the tips and tricks that I have that helped me enter a socially drinking environment when I was sober. Those are a couple of the events that I had to get through in those early days, and learning how to process that and have a healthy headspace going into it, during it, out of it. I hope this really helped you find some new ways to also navigate your sobriety in a social drinking environment, which honestly is everywhere. I promise you, it does get easier. It really, really, truly does. And you're able to appreciate all of the incredible things around you once you put that glass down. That's what's happened for me, and I wouldn't be able to have the life that I'm so grateful for if I didn't go through it. And if you're watching this and you're in the depths of like in the trenches of like your new first day, first week, first month, first year, know that recovery is possible, it's sustainable, and you just have to find your people, your community, and those that love you. I'm so happy that you're here and took the time to watch this. I hope this does help you. If it did, or if you think this video will help anyone, please share, subscribe, do all the YouTube things. It really does help build a community that I hope that we can build here. If you do not want to leave a public comment, you can also follow me on Instagram and TikTok. DM me, please, about this anytime. If there's something you want to see, it's just at Nina Davalori. You can send me a message, and know that I'm here for you and I'm proud of you, and take it day by day. Thanks so much for watching, and I will see you next time.